Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you download your video content. We appreciate you being here with us. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, and get on board with the Sporting Kansas City Show. As always, we are presented by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. And there are 3 cans of Michelob Ultra in front of me, not because there are 3 of us, but because I need to drink all 3 of them after everything that's happened over the past weekend. How about that? No, that's the way to start the show. Hey, we have a big show for you today. In all seriousness, Ali Trost is joining me as always. Connell McCourt is the super sub of the century right now for us right here on the Sporting Kansas City Show. And yes, we have a lot to get to.
I think he may have broken into the starting lineup.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We'll see. I mean, I've been showing up every time asked,
Yeah, it's
coming
true.
off the bench, scoring goals.
Answering the
He's
call
keeping
every
that
time.
sweat going as he warms up.
I'm the Marino Shawnice of the crew at the minute, breaking in there.
2 goals in 2 games for Connell McCourt and Marino's Shawnice. So he's here. That's the bottom line. And maybe we'll see Shawnice in the starting 11 on Wednesday night against the Colorado Rapids, considering some of the things we're seeing on the injury report right now. We'll see. We don't know about that yet. But there are more names on the injury list. We'll get to that and many more things coming up on the show. We'll talk about that tough game on Saturday in Portland, 7-2, Sporting fall to the Portland Timbers, and the aftermath of that. We'll talk about the latest news that has come out since then. As I mentioned, more people added to the unavailability report for Sporting Kansas City. We'll preview a big opportunity to bounce back. That's the way we're going to look at this. This is an opportunity on Wednesday night to show that bounce back ability against the Colorado Rapids, another one of those Western Conference rivals. And we're going to talk with one of the young bright spots for Sporting Kansas City over the past week or so, Kayden Pierre, who came in to play in the U.S. Open Cup game against FC Dallas, had some really bright moments there, and then was forced into duty as well late in the game against Portland also. And I thought, especially in the FC Dallas game, really showed some things. So we're going to have a chance to talk to him, get to know him a little bit, have him tell us his story, how he got to Kansas City, his background, all of that. I always look forward to getting to know some of the young guys on the team. So that's all straight ahead on the show. And now, Ali, we'll go to you first because you were there in Portland. And I'll look, 7-2, Portland wins it. I know nobody wants to hear it, but it's just the truth. At halftime, Jacob Peterson and I were in the studio. We take our headsets off as we go to commercial break. We look at each other. It's 1-0 Colorado on the set-piece goal they scored. Portland. And we both, I'm sorry, what did I say? Seattle.
Colorado.
Oh,
Jeez.
gosh, I can't keep anything straight. 1-0 Portland on the set piece. Jacob and I look at each other and go, I actually feel pretty good. I feel like the team's outplaying Portland. We created chances in the first half. There was one right at the 6-yard box for Kyrie Shelton, a couple of other decent opportunities.
Roger Espinoza had that almost banger from right outside the box.
Yep.
And Peter Vermees even said as much during our halftime interview, and I even had a chance to talk with Johnny Russell today. It's Tuesday out at training, and we just talked about the game and the aftermath of it, and he brought up that halftime conversation with the team, and they all said, and he even said in his postgame, like, they felt really good. They felt like they were really close and that they got unlucky on the set-piece goal. It was just, just a couple of bad moments there, but all in all, they felt like they had a really good first half. And then, of course, the 6 goals in the second half happened, and I think right now, if you had to just sum it up in one word how the team feels, it's embarrassed. And I think now it's, like you said, Nate, a really good opportunity ahead of them on Wednesday, a really quick turnaround, which could be maybe a positive thing for the team to quickly put this one behind them. But you also have to make sure that some of those negative feelings that could carry over don't come through in this game and affect individual performances or, of course, the collective team performance.
Well, the Blanco goal right after halftime killed it all, didn't it really?
Yeah.
No matter what, because I was kind of the same as you. We were playing better than I kind of expected us to, just because, look, Portland's a tough place to go. They're not a bad team.
And it was loud
either,
in there.
right?
That was my first time to Providence Park.
So the first half, I was like, you know what, we're still in this. This actually looked good. And then just that killer blow right after halftime, and it just took all the wind out of their sails. Like, the 15 minutes before they spent in the locker room was just, it was over in 30 seconds because everything you had planned, and I don't know if it's down to concentration, is it down to, I mean, just
Some of that was down to a great finish by Blanco, of course.
Yeah.
Not the only one too. Like I mean, there were some absolute wonder goals, and it seemed like the second goal kind of broke our back a bit. It took us a bit to come back in. We didn't really took a bit for us to get our bearings about us after they scored that second goal, and the next thing, boom, boom, boom. It's just where I mean you're under the caution. Some of that was you're going forward, you're pushing forward, trying to get a goal, and they're just playing the ball long. And look, Blanco's
and that's the
he's a
position that
special
they want to
player,
be in too. So
right.
they getting that goal as quickly as they did in the second half really put them in a prime position to put up the goals that they did, because they just then took complete advantage. And I mean, it's not a situation that you ever see really in the sport of soccer. I mean, you see multi-goal games, but never really to the extent that we saw it on Saturday. But I think it was just them taking complete advantage of a weakness and just preying on it.
Well, and I think you make an interesting point, Connell, about pressing forward, going for goals. Because, look, I think there are teams that at some point, I don't know if it's 3-1, 4-1, whatever point in time you decide to do it, but there are some teams that would look at it at some point and say, let's shut up shop. Let's just stop trying to attack. We're not going to win this game, and let's kick the ball around and just get this game over with and stop the bleeding, so to speak. Sporting Kansas City are a team that want to attack, and they never want to give up, and they continue to go forward and press for goals. And they really have to go forward and press for goals when they're trailing by multiple goals. Then you add on top of it that Portland gets a red card, right? And so now you really feel like, I mean, yeah, maybe it's still a really long shot, but we got a man advantage. Maybe really throw the kitchen
Weirder
sink
things
at
have
it now.
happened,
Let's
sure.
really press forward. And you just kind of get into even more of an opportunity where, it snowballs even more. Then you get down to 10v10. The game's completely wide open. And if you press forward at all, it's going to lead to those things. And, so that's where I look at it and go, boy, you could look at it and say there's times when you lose 7-2 and you just got absolutely played off the field. And then there's other times where there was like a snowball effect, which is what happened to Sporting Kansas City in this game.
They ultimately found themselves in too big of a hole, because that pressing forward and in commitment to doing so, even though it was leaving them exposed defensively, they were getting the rewards for it. I mean, the John East goal happened before Portland scored another. The Johnny Russell goal happened before they came back and scored another. So you could sense that, I mean, after the two goals that Sporting scored, like they were still trying to just cut that deficit, but they just left themselves too exposed and behind.
I mean, it didn't help either that Portland were just utterly ruthless. Like in front of goal, they
8 shots on goal, 7
miss.
go in the back of the net. I mean,
that usually, like when you look at that stat, that looks bad on Tim. But even half of the goal, I mean, like he couldn't even have got
what was
anywhere
he
near
gonna
them.
do about any of
he
them?
was left out to dry.
A lot of them, maybe he just had the press, ball going over his head and stuff. What do you do? Like, it's just unbelievable finishes from really, really talented players. And that was kind of the difference. Their talented players were ruthless, and they took advantage of their chances, and just it didn't fall for us. Sometimes that's the way it goes.
Well, and so I think, to go back to the point about how, some teams might just go wave the white flag a little bit. Let's just sit back and play this game out and limit the damage. The argument I guess those teams would make is the psychological damage then that you suffer from a 7-2 loss. We saw it on the face of Johnny Russell after the game. I mean, he called it an embarrassment. He called it a disgrace. He said it was the low point of his career. And look, now that I would point out to everybody, that's right after the game.
Right.
Yeah.
That is
Tensions
as
are still
you've
high
just
and
walked off the field having to live through those 90 minutes as a player who has pride in what you do for a living. So that's an emotional Johnny Russell at that time. You said you talked to him a couple of days later. I'm not assuming that he's just okay with it now, but was he any more measured or at least philosophical about, hey, okay, that's it. Let's move on to the next one now?
Certainly more looking more ahead, because at the moment, in that post game, it was really just a reflection on those 90 minutes, and you could really hear like the agony almost. And it's a quote that you can read it, but listening to it gives you a completely different perspective on how Johnny Russell was feeling in that moment. When I talked to him today, though, it was kind of more so getting the perspective of the leader, Johnny Russell, and hey, what are the solutions now going forward? What needs to happen? And I asked him specifically with the young guys, like, how does that game affect them any differently, or what message needs to be tailored to them specifically? And he said, the most important thing for them right now is that they don't go back into their shell, because as a young player, a big part of becoming a professional or growing into a team is coming out of your shell a little bit. And a loss like that can kind of send you back into it a little bit. So that was just one thing that we had talked about specifically. But, he didn't mince his words. He still said it was an embarrassment. Courtney Ford on his on his media availability today on the press conference said the same thing. I think that the feeling of embarrassment is there for the players, but now there's nothing they can do about it. They just have to find a way to move on. But it's going to be, it's not, I think the belief is there. It's not a matter of if, it's when we can kind of turn that corner.
I think the environment that they're in, just this environment in general of the sporting team, I don't think the young players will fall back in that because they won't be allowed to. I mean, at this club, even young players coming through, you're told to get on the ball, you're told to go forward, be adventurous. You can't. They don't really know how to play any other way.
I think it was more so like, when you do go into this game against Colorado on Wednesday, not letting any lingering thoughts of the game against Portland negatively kill your game in this match and going forward. It's more of like, hey, use this as a lesson, as a way to get better, but don't let it just kind of infiltrate your mind in a negative way to the point where it takes away your ability to help the team and do what the team is asking you and requiring of you to do.
I just kind of mean like the way we play. If you're a fullback, if you're a centre midfielder, whatever, and you're a young guy, you can't really afford to be in your shell because you'll have the likes of Johnny Russell, you'll have Remy Walter, you'll have Roger won't be there.
Yeah.
But you'll have those players demanding that these players get on the ball, try and influence, try and let your game influence the game itself.
I think that mental game is it's so much harder than I think we often give it credit, because in talking to so many different players, and I've had conversations with Roger about this, with Kyrie about this, when it comes to young players, and not like on this team specifically, but just talking about like the career arc of a professional, figuring out that mental side is
tough.
90% is kind of what I've been told in talking to them about that. So even though, yes, there's high demand on them, that doesn't mean that you're mentally all, in order.
With the game coming up right away, too, I kind of think that helps as well, because it's the longer you're sitting thinking about it, because if it's a Saturday to Saturday, then it's more time to kind of sit, mull over it. Well, did I do this? Should I have done that? Whatever. Now we're right back into a chance to put it right, get 3 points on the board. So it doesn't really get much more simpler than that.
Yeah.
Yogi Berra said that 90% of the game is half mental. So whatever the math breaks down.
That
on
math sounds right to me.
Yeah, it's. Well, that's why I asked Peter Vermees at the press conference today about Johnny Russell, the captain, who has those comments after the game and is obviously so hurt and busted up by the performance in the second half of that game. How do you then handle it going forward as the leader of the team? And Peter, because I asked Peter from his perspective as a former team captain type of player, and he's basically said Johnny's got to do it his way. It's got to be authentic to Johnny. Every single person's different, and if you do it in a phony way, you'll get found out really quickly. And I think the thing with Johnny that we know is the first thing we'll see is him leading by example. I don't think he's going to do anything. He's not going to go and throw all of the other players under the bus and say, it's all your fault, you guys need to get up to my standard. I think he's going to go out there and try to show them that he's willing to play through whatever he's dealing with right now, if he can. And
he was upgraded to questionable.
Yep.
He was listed as out on the Monday injury report. He was upgraded to questionable for the game on Wednesday.
And I don't want to make too much of that, but that might tell you right there something about what Johnny's made of. We already know he's been playing through things this year because the team needs results. They need him out on the field. And he's flat out said, on the record that, look, this is not the time for me to be on the bench. I've got to play. Mm-hmm. And so that's sending a message right there to the younger players on the team, because that's one of the things, another old famous sports quote that adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. Yeah. And so to me, if you're Johnny Russell, he's the kind of guy that will go out there, and I think that the veterans on this team like Roger Espinoza and Graham Zusi are the kind of guys that will go show, okay, it's easy to play great and play your hardest and play through injury when things are going well, but when things are going poorly, that's when you actually show what you're made of, and this is when we need to pick it up a notch. And so I think that's what we'll see from Johnny. Yeah. But here's the thing, guys, and we'll get into it when we preview the game against Colorado in our last segment, but there are names added to the injury list. There are 2 players that are suspended now for this game. So the adversity is here. I mean, this is going to be a tough one. But I would point out, when we talk about the highs and lows, This time a week ago, we were getting ready, little did we know, to watch this incredibly inspiring comeback performance that was largely fueled by young, unheralded, unproven players who looked terrible in the first half of that game against FC Dallas and then came out of the locker room and played this inspiring soccer that got the whole stadium into it, that started the comeback, and even some of those guys were still on the field when the comeback was completed. It seems like that was a long time ago right now. So, the roller coaster of a season happens, and it might be some of those same guys that are now tasked with the opportunity to go out there on Wednesday night and inspire everybody once again. So let's see what happens.
I wonder how much more difficult that 7-2 loss was coming off of that high, because in hearing, all the players talk about that Open Cup win, I mean, they needed it. And they felt that. They felt like maybe not that they were turning a corner necessarily because it was one game, but at least a more than just a positive step up. It felt like they took a leap of sorts. And so I think maybe what, as we talk about what the response is going to be going into this game on Wednesday, I think in even kind of thinking back on Johnny's post game, you can almost kind of see, yes, the frustration, but also like, what do we do? It's kind of.
Yeah, he was asked because he said, we've already been talking enough. We've talked too much.
Yeah.
We need to go out and do it.
Yeah, and so you can just kind of sense that like they're trying to figure out the roadmap as things are happening around them. And like you said, characters revealed, and we know some things about the character of these players, but never within the context of what this season has been. So it will be just interesting to see moving forward, but. I mean, great opportunity Wednesday, and then another one on the road at San Jose on Sunday.
Yeah, and sometimes when it gets to that point, instead of thinking big picture about how do we get back into the playoffs or how do we turn this entire season around, I thought we heard a little bit of this from Peter during his presser today, Tuesday, when we're doing this, which was basically the idea of go out and have a good training session today. Go out and give your best effort tomorrow night and give your team a chance to win. Put one foot in front of the other right now and see if you can put together some good things.
That's what it's all about. Win the next game.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what it really has to be.
Against a good Colorado team that's in good form right now as well. We'll talk about all that coming up in just a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of those young players that went out there and I thought really might have discovered some things about himself in his game against FC Dallas last weekend. Kayden Pierre, fascinating kid with a fascinating story to tell as well, and we're going to hear that from him next. We are off and running on the Sporting Kansas City show presented by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it.
As devoted Sporting KC fans, we know you travel well to support your club and its boys in blue. So, before you travel to the next away game, or anywhere for that matter, check out Kansas City International Airport's new terminal progress at buildkci.com.
Welcome back to the Sporting Kansas City show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, and wherever you get your podcasts and stream your video content. As you can see, Colin McCourt's not here right now because we have kicked him to the side, and he has been replaced by another young player on this Sporting Kansas City team, 19-year-old Kayden Pierre. And Kayden, I'm sorry to say this, but Gianluca Busio witnessed the same thing. Until you turn 20, we are contractually obligated to list your age every time we talk about you because it has to, we have to point out to everybody, he's a teenager and he's playing professional soccer. It's unbelievable. How are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're doing
well.
Yeah, we're doing awesome, man. And we have so much to get to with you, but obviously, one of the reasons that we were like, hey, let's see if we can get Kayden on the show when he had a good performance against FC Dallas in that U.S. Open Cup game. And I know it didn't start the way anybody wanted it to, but then the way that it came and turned around in the second half is one of those things I think that everybody that watched it and was there will remember forever. So for you, as a young guy, being a part of a game like that, what was it like and what are your memories now that you look back on it a week later?
Yeah, I mean, to start the game, obviously a little nervous. It was my first start at home, first start in general, so I was a little nervous. But once the game gets going, you're there to play soccer. You've been doing it all your life, so, slowly the game comes to you. But we started off slow as a team. I mean, a lot of rotation happened, a lot of younger guys. But then, once we switched formations, it all got better, and then I think the players started seeing that, we have a chance, we get after them there on the back foot. And then we made the subs, we got the goal, and then the crowd was getting into the game, and then it was just actually unreal, surreal night great night, great win, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
lost for words.
That was a
kind
fun
of.
one. Well,
It
and
was.
maybe this is on me. I didn't realize how fast you were. I was like, KP's flying up the
Yeah,
sideline.
no.
How have, the speed is, I'm sure, something you were just born with, but what are some parts of your game? You mentioned kind of having those nerves, but then you just fall back on what you know. What are some of the things that have kind of developed in your professional game in maybe the last year that you're really proud of?
I would say with going up and down the pitch is with and without the ball. It's something I worked on. I used to just go a lot running without the ball, but I like to take it on the dribble more, have the ball at my feet. Is something I've really worked on, I would say.
Well, that was what really stood out to
Yeah.
me in the game, and it wasn't just the second half. You mentioned the change in formation, but there was a stretch at the end of the first half where you had a couple of runs up the field. You took guys on. You made some dangerous opportunities happen by your ability to get up the field. We know that that's what Peter and the system calls for the fullbacks to do here. And a thought occurred to me when I was watching it. I felt like I was watching a young man grow in his own confidence on the field. And sometimes I've heard athletes talk about like when you move up in levels, whether you're going from high school to college or you're going from college to the pros or a lower division to a higher division, there's that moment where you almost wonder to yourself, okay, yeah, I know that this was successful down at the last division I was at, but is it going to translate? Now I'm playing against better guys that are more experienced and maybe more athletic. Is it going to work up here? And it seemed to me like you figured out, oh, I can take these guys on too. I have the pace. I have the skill to do it. Am I reading that right? Like, did you feel like you were growing in confidence in your ability to do that as the game went on?
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the nerves in the beginning, you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to mess up. I mean, it happens to everyone, especially their first game. So I would say, yeah, I think once I got on the dribble once or twice, I mean, you just get confidence and belief in yourself. Oh, I can do this every time I get the ball. I mean, why not? Might as well go for it. And, yeah, that pretty much happened throughout the game, I would say.
Have you played this position your whole life, and who are some fullbacks that you look up to? Obviously, you've got a great one,
Yeah,
Graham Zusi, to look up
great,
to. But
fantastic
what
one.
about maybe around the league or around the world?
Yeah, no, I would say Danny Alves is up there. He's, I mean, for me, the best right back of all time. Can do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say also Kyle Walker on Man City's another good right back. I mean, he's super, super duper fast. He's ridiculously fast. But yeah, Kyle Walker's another one I would say.
And so right back though, is that the
Oh
position you
no,
started?
I used to play center back actually. Center back growing up.
What?
Yeah, my whole life played center back, and then crazy story. I got to play left winger once. I convinced my coach to let me play left winger one game. I scored 2 goals and had an assist. It was a great game, great day. We still tied though. We gave up 3 goals in the second half. Not a good result. But then the next game I started at left wing again. Our center back got hurt, and I went to go play center back again, and obviously I played well, so got stuck there again.
Yeah.
So,
Man,
Oh, wow.
I feel like, with your pace, I was sure you were going to say I was a forward,
I know,
I
that's-
wish I was a
Well,
forward.
is that why you wanted to go out on the wing? Because you
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to get
yeah.
into the attack a bit more?
In training, I would be scoring all the time. I'd be like, Coach, put me up top. Come on now.
Yeah, I think there's a little mismanagement from your youth coach. We got to get this guy on the
Yeah.
horn. Because it's interesting when you mention the names of these other right backs in the game. The game has changed a lot. I remember back in the day, there was a famous quote, hey, nobody dreams of growing up to be a right back. Well, that was back when a right back was just a defender.
Yeah.
And we just talked about it. I mean, and it's not just at Sporting Kansas City. I feel like everywhere you look in soccer nowadays, the fullbacks, they have license to get all the way up the field, and they actually are supposed to make things happen in the attack. That's got to be a fun time to be a fullback compared to the back in the day, right?
Oh, a lot better times. The fullbacks are a lot more important in attacking output of teams nowadays, especially, I mean, you see Man City, Liverpool, all the best teams in the world, their fullbacks are brilliant going both ways. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we got Kayden Pierre here. I want to get into your background a little, get to know you a little bit. Now, first of all, understand mother and father both from the Caribbean, right? One from Jamaica, one from Haiti. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about their background?
Okay, so my mom is from Jamaica. My dad's from Haiti. My mom moved to the States when I think she was like 5, I would say. And my dad moved for college. And then they both met in Michigan, which is where I'm from. And they've been there ever since.
What were they? Where in Michigan were they when they met? You know what they were doing at that time?
Well, my parents used to like to go clubbing a lot.
Okay.
So they met at the club.
Yeah.
They met. It's a good old classic. My dad took her for a dance, and next thing you know, and they used to dance all night. That's what my friends would say,
Yeah.
or their friends would say, which is super cool. But
okay, so have you been to Haiti? Have you been to Jamaica? Do you still have family back in those places?
Yes, I do. My whole dad, pretty much the whole side of his family, still lives in Haiti, and Jamaica. Some of them live there, but some of them. Also, a lot of them actually live in Toronto, Canada, which is surprising. And then, no, I've been to Jamaica 5 for a wedding. When I was 5, I want to go back because I don't really
That's
remember
the only time
too
you've
much.
been?
Yeah, and then Haiti, I went when I was 12 for another wedding, which would also be good to go back and see it again.
After some time has passed. So I know that you also are the oldest of 4. So am I.
Correct.
So
there we go.
I'm sure we can share a lot of stories about what that's like. What are your siblings like? What's the age difference there, and what are they?
Okay.
Are they soccer players too?
Yeah. My sister is 17. Okay. She plays volleyball, basketball, a little soccer. She's kind of like me, I would say, in sports-wise and school-wise. And then I got my other brother who is 15, and now he used to play soccer, but now he actually plays esports.
Nice.
Yeah, it's surprising, but it's something he loves to do, so we support him
What's
with
his
that.
go-to?
Rocket League.
Okay.
Oh, my son was big into Rocket League for a while. Yeah, he was getting on some, there's all these competitive teams you can get on
that's
and all
exactly
that.
what
Do you know
he
what
does
Rocket
for
League
school.
is, Allie?
I know nothing.
You're a car playing soccer, basically. Like, you ram your car into this big ball, and it goes into the goal.
So I used to love Mario Kart, so I feel like I might love whatever
So
this
now,
is.
It's hard.
Okay,
it sounds hard.
It's hard.
This is interesting. So you said that he used to play soccer, but now he plays esports. It's one or the other? He doesn't do both?
Nah, because he used to like soccer, but like he doesn't really like it. But he always loved, like he always had a passion for video games.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
he's super good at Rocket League. So
well, it's funny because my son's massively into video games and all that, but he also does play soccer. And it was really funny because one time, the coach gives you your player evaluation and tells you what they think your son's good at and what he needs to get better at. And the evaluation said, well, your son has a really good knack for passing angles and when to make certain runs. He sees the field really well in that regard. So it's clear that you guys work at home on this a lot. And I was like, no, we don't. And I talked to my son, and he said, I learned that all in Rocket League. He's like, I do these Rocket League tutorials, and they show you after you pass the ball this way, you drive your car that way, and then you're wide open. And so I just started using
Tactics
those.
101,
yeah.
Rocket League.
I might need to play more Rocket League.
There you go. You see the game better. I was like, hey, man, I like the fact that you're applying it, when you get out there on the field.
That's perfect.
Okay, so you're you played other sports too growing up though, right? Not just soccer. What were the other sports you played, and what were you best at if it wasn't soccer?
If it wasn't soccer, I mean, I played a little football at recess. Everyone does that, and then I played basketball for school, so it would be basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, basketball was good.
Okay,
Good
so
times.
did you grow up as like a University of Michigan or a Michigan State fan or anything like that?
Well, my mom went to the University of Michigan Flint, so I wouldn't say I'm a big, but I always did choose blue. We have more blue in my family, and then my dad went to LTU, but I wasn't too big on the debate.
Okay.
I would cheer for a Michigan team if they play against Ohio State, though. Always.
But my understanding
Either
is you are a big Michigan sports fan.
Yes, I am a Michigan. We're not very good right now, but yes.
Okay, but the Lions had a pretty good draft.
But we're still, it's the Lions.
Yeah,
We
there's nothing
might
you can
ruin
do
it.
there.
I have family that lives in Michigan, so like every time I'm like, oh, that was kind of. They're like, no.
Did they go to the games or?
No, honestly, a couple of them now have become Chiefs fans because some of them they grew up. My uncle grew up in St. Louis, but his family was all raised in Michigan, and so they have Missouri ties. They would always come visit us and stuff. So
Any excuse to root for Mahomes.
I think that's really what it was.
There you go. A lot better than the Lions.
Okay, so we're visiting once again with Kayden Pierre, and I know that you played other sports, but also one of my favorite things when you got signed to the first team, and I was talking to the guys on the PR staff about you. I think this must have been last year at some point. They said, you got to see this picture. And they showed me this picture of this, I think, about 12-year-old Kayden Pierre. Is that right?
12, 13.
And he's holding up a trophy that's taller than him. And I was like, man, I've never seen a trophy that big because you were a chess-playing champion. What was that? Okay, what trophy was that picture? I can see you smiling already, so you know exactly what picture I'm talking about.
That was for Nationals. So I went to the Nationals. It was in Nashville or Louisville where it took place, and I got like, I didn't even get. I mean, I got like 13th out of, I don't know how many kids. It was K through 8, so. But I don't know. I got like 13th.
You just play against your grade though when you go to these chess tournaments.
So you play. I mean, most of the time you play against middle schoolers because they're like, there's a certain rating in chess, so you play against a certain rating. But it was like a certain rating and under, so I would play like anyone who comes. So they could be in second grade and have a super high rating. But
I learned
most
that
of the
in the
time,
Queen's Gambit. So.
Yeah, you know.
I was like, I feel like I know
you were
a little
12 at the time though.
Yeah, I think so.
So you could have played against 14-year-olds or something like that.
Could have, yeah.
It's all about the rating, not like the age.
It is about rating,
Okay.
yeah.
So how old were you when you got into playing chess then? Like
10, I think. My family loves to play board games. We play, like, when we're at home together, and I don't go home often, but we always play board games at night, just something we always do as a family. And then he introduced me to chess, and then I actually enjoyed it, and then I picked it up at school. And I started beating him. I was like, all right, I might as well join the chess club, something else to do. And then it just took off from there, I would say.
It sounds a lot like my family. And I'm curious because, you know, I don't live in the same place as my family anymore. How has that been, being a 19-year-old kid coming to a new place, pursuing this dream, but being away from your siblings and from your family? I know your mom was here with you for a bit, but...
Oh, no, actually, she's actually still with me right now with my little brother, with my 7-year-old brother.
Okay, so I was...
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, tell me a little bit more about then...
How old were you when you came here?
14, turning
14.
15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, she makes it a lot easier, I would say.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough without her for the first couple months. I'm actually moving in with Jake pretty soon, I would say. But, yeah. No, she makes it easy. I mean, yeah, she makes it really easy. She handles most of my stuff still, so I got to figure that out. She likes the hands-on, so I got to sort that out. And then my 7-year-old brother, I mean, he's an Energizer bunny. He just keeps running around and keeps me awake, so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So your mom came down here with you, and she's been here basically for 5 years in Kansas City then? Or?
She stayed the first 6 months because they thought I was too young to live with the host. And then I went to a host family for 2 years. And then COVID happened, so I switched to a new host family because they didn't want to deal with the COVID. And then they went back to Michigan because I knew them from Michigan, the host family I stayed with. So my mom came back down, and then I signed, and she's like, I got to stay with you for a little bit longer. And then, so that's how it is.
Okay. Well, 19 years old, that's about the time kids are going off to college and stuff. So you're about ready. And you're moving in with Jake?
Yeah.
Now, do you and Jake, he's from Michigan, too. Did you guys know each other before you came down here?
We actually didn't. We used to play against each other as kids. He'll tell you.
Did he ever foul you?
No.
I'm playing Jake. Jake gets stuck in on tackles,
Jake
man.
does.
I like that about him. So
he wasn't like that back then. He went for megs. He went for a lot of megs.
Oh, okay.
But no, we used to play against each other. He'll tell you his team won, but he doesn't remember. He has a bad memory. But
hey, I think you guys are young enough to where they keep pretty good record of those games.
Yeah.
So we can maybe go look that up and find out.
So it wasn't
we'll
like that Jake Davis, man. I don't like him. It wasn't any of that.
Nah, nothing crazy like that. Nothing crazy, but yeah.
So you guys excited to have your own spot here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, no, it'll be exciting times. We might get in a couple arguments here and there about our teams, but
that happens.
I'll sort it out.
I
you sort it out with a game of chess. Say, hey, I'll play a chess for it.
Oh, no chance he can play that. No chance. He would rage, throw all the pieces on the ground or something.
He'd start knocking.
Yeah, he would be like, no. Yeah.
Do you guys play video games?
Yes, of course. Have to.
What are you into?
Right now, actually, I haven't been playing a lot. I've been watching a lot of TV shows. I've been catching up on TV shows.
What's your favorite right now?
I mean, right now I'm watching Breaking Bad, but this is, I mean.
Oh, you're getting caught up on that, huh?
Yeah, see, when those things were big, like Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, that's when I was on the video game.
Yeah.
That's when I was on my video game grind, but now it's kind of changed. But now FIFA, 2K, Call of Duty, Fortnite, those are mostly what I play.
I would imagine a lot of our listeners are curious about this because it's something that I've always thought about. What is, you're 19, you're getting ready to move in with Jake. What does schooling look like for you at this time? I talked to Cam Duke the other day. He was like, oh, yeah, I got to go. Got class. It's like, wait, what? Like, what's that kind of like right now? What are you pursuing?
I took a class. I have to take like a couple of like English classes and like social studies classes. I took a class during preseason. Right now I'm not taking a class because honestly I needed a break from school. I couldn't focus on soccer in school very good towards the end of my high school. So I'm taking a little break right now. But it's something I'm going to continue and pursue.
Were you a pretty good student? I mean, I got to think chess player. That you just make the assumption right there. He's got to be a good student.
Yeah, no, I was a pretty good student. I would say I was a little lazy though.
Okay.
When it came, certain things, but now I was a good student.
Well, and hey, I know that for me, like, I didn't really start to take my academics seriously till I was about your age now, and that was like when I realized I've got no other options.
I think it was later for me, if that makes you feel better. So.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, to bring it back full circle, you guys right now, are in a situation where there are a lot of guys banged up. There are guys that are suspended, and you have a lot of games coming up too with another Open Cup game and all that. How are you viewing things personally? Like, you seeing some opportunities here to really try to prove at an early age what you can do?
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, you just got to work hard every day in training. Just prove to the staff and the players that, I'm ready to get minutes, deserve to get minutes. But, I mean, just got to work hard in and out in training, on and off the field. All the young guys, all the bench guys, whoever, just to prove, especially after a tough result like last game. I mean, anything can happen.
So Allie mentioned Graham Zusi being this great, you've got this one of the all-time greats in the whole league, in the history of the league and in the country, at your position. When you watch him go about his business on a daily basis, what have you learned, maybe that he hasn't even told you, but that just you've seen about the way he does this job?
I mean, one thing for sure is the way he takes care of his body. I mean, at his age, he's still in phenomenal shape and can do everything pretty much. But it's also just his mentality and habits, I would say, because most of the time I do watch him, and I watch what he does on and off the field, whether it's getting treatment or doing certain stuff on the field, and it's just like stuff I take notes on that obviously one day I'm going to need in the future or even right now. So, yeah, it's honestly great having him ahead of me.
Sure. What's maybe one thing that you've started doing this year that's been different in your professional career?
I would say there's two. One thing is diet. I think that's one thing I took for granted, I would say, but it's something super important. And then I would also say the gym. Started hitting the gym a little bit more than last year, I'll tell you that. Yeah. The gym,
Going up against grown men, you got that strength,
exactly.
Right?
And activation.
Was there a
recovery.
hit that kind of was like, okay, I need to?
Honestly, it was in preseason when I was going up against Daniel, and he kind of just pushed me off the ball, and I was like, well, that's not good. Well, that can't be. That's not good for me.
If Daniel's pushing me off the ball.
No offense to Daniel. No, he's strong, but I was like, whoa.
He just looks so wiry.
That's what I'm
there's
saying.
No way that guy should be.
But I was like, wow, I need to hit the gym.
Yeah.
That's what I thought right there.
Hey, man, I like that. You're learning things, you know, and get in the weight room is part of the deal. Hey, Kayden, we really appreciate the time. It's been really fun getting to know you, and I hope we get to have you on again real soon.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, that is Kayden Pierre, right back for Sporting Kansas City, 19 years old. We will take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Connell McCourt, who does not need us to state how old he is at any point in time. Back after this on the Sporting Kansas City show right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we're back on the Sporting Kansas City show on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, and wherever you get your podcast and stream your video content. We appreciate you watching and listening, and we appreciate you supporting by buying some delicious Michelob Ultra, won't you? Maybe kick back and knock one down while you're listening to us preview this Sporting Kansas City versus Colorado Rapids game. Michelob Ultra, it's only worth it if you enjoy it. We're rejoined by Connell McCourt after a great conversation with Kayden Pierre. And, guys, young player getting an opportunity. We might see another one here, Allie, because we have some news from Sporting Kansas City that came out earlier today when it comes to the roster. We thought they might have to do something considering all the injuries and suspensions they'll be dealing with for this game on Wednesday night.
Yep, just dropped in the inbox, 21-year-old Julian Vasquez has signed to a short-term, I want to get the exact wording right here, short-term agreement with Sporting Kansas City. So that, I think, just kind of speaks to the spot that they're in right now with the injuries. But he's been a bright spot for this SKC2 team. Benny Feilhaber, the head coach, said a few weeks back, maybe this was last month, that there hasn't really been one player that has kind of solidified their spot or shown that they're fast tracking to the first team, but this would be the first indication that they see that certainly in Vasquez, and like you said, a good opportunity. I mean, this could be an opportunity not just for him, but for Sporting Kansas City to see what they might have in some of these young MLS Next Pro players.
And Julian Vasquez has scored 2 goals in the last 2 games for SKC2. Their last game, a come-from-behind win, he scored the equalizer. It was a really good goal. You can look those up at sportingkc.com and on the social media channels for Sporting KC2 if you haven't already seen them. And we don't know what kind of responsibility he will or will not have in the game, but that does give them at least a little bit more depth on the bench because, again, to go back to it, Allie, we've got some news on the injury front for Sporting Kansas City. Both Kyrie Shelton and Johnny Russell were added to the injury report. At one point, they were listed as out. Now they've been upgraded to questionable. So hopefully that's good news for the 2 of those guys. But remember, this is a quick turnaround for them. Robert Volodare was given a red card after 2 yellow cards in the game against Portland. And Roger Espinoza is out for yellow card accumulation. We're still waiting to see if Graham Zusi is able to work his way back into the rotation. Nicolas Isimat-Mirin is already out as well. Ozzy Cisneros suffered the hamstring injury against FC Dallas. And, of course, the season-ending injuries to Polito and Gotti Kinda. I don't know if I'm missing anybody there. I
think you about covered it there.
No computer in front of me right here. Just Michelob Ultras, baby.
Nearly sent me into a depression listening to all our injuries and
that was
suspensions.
So it's a lot.
painful.
So let's talk about what Sporting Kansas City then have to do. And one of them, I would say, guys, we'd have to think we're going to get some a call on Felipe Hernandez to go out there and put out the type of performance he has the last couple of games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited. He's going to be our pregame interview tomorrow for the pregame show for the broadcast. And, I mean, really the bright spot from the last game, 2 assists on both of Sporting's goals, and then had what Peter Ramiz called the best performance of the season, or of his season in 2022 after coming back, from his time away last year. So really excited to see what he brings and as he continues to grow and progress, and maybe even a little bit more pressure now with how many injuries there are and how much they need him to kind of lead there in the midfield or be a focal point of the midfield. So I think that's going to be a big key. The other thing, too, though, just organization defensively. Courtney Ford was asked on his press conference today, hey, how hard is it when you've got so much rotation? You mentioned all the defenders who are currently out of the lineup. That's going to be some rotation. Courtney Ford had, we talked so much about how well him and Robbie Volodare, were working together. They had all that time together in training. Now it looks like he'll probably be out there, I would imagine, alongside Andreu Fontas. The 2 of them haven't necessarily played a ton together. So it's just all those moving parts that have been in, that lack of consistency that Peter's talked about all season. We'll see that on the defensive side as well. So I think, against a Colorado team that can also present some of the same threats that Portland did. Their counterattack ability is up there with one of the most dangerous in the league. So that's something I think for Sporting Kansas City to have that defensive organization and communication is going to be really important.
I actually, if it turns out this way, and we don't know what the defensive rotation is going to be, but if it turns out to be Fontas and Ford, I actually find that to be an intriguing pairing because I've always felt Andreu Fontas would do well against a big, athletic, physical presence that just goes and tackles people and gets stuck in and wins every aerial duel and covers a ton of ground. Nicolas Isimat-Mirin is long and lanky and athletic and everything, but a lot of his game seems to be a little finesse as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that in any way to tear him down or anything, but Fonte is such a technical player and an aware player, but pace and power might not be where you lean on him. Mm-hmm. And Courtney Ford is that guy we see that just sells out to block everything. He's throwing his body everywhere through the course of the game and kind of plays with that edge. And I just wonder, maybe that's a good peanut butter jelly combination right there. 2 guys that bring 2 different things to the table. I don't know. If we see it, I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
No, I agree. They definitely complement each other well. Sorry, easy for me to say. Fonte, as you said, he's very assured. He looks like he can play with anyone, really. You see him a lot, especially when the younger guys are in. He's talking them through the game, drop or push or, squeeze, whatever. Playing alongside Courtney, who's actually kind of turned out to look like somewhat of a leader in this team now, especially these last couple of weeks. He's the one screaming on the pitch, demanding things off players. And that usually you don't see that with players coming straight into the building, but he kind of seems like it's like next man up type mentality. It's my time to kind of do it, and he's assured when he plays, and as you said, he'll go and win everything. He'll win all the headers. He'll sell his body to block anything going towards goal, and that may give Fontas a bit more license to kind of be a bit more reserved, Courtney goes and wins all the rest of it, he sweeps up behind kind of and can play those diagonals and stuff that we like to play, that Peter likes to play. I think that's interesting to see the two of them together, especially with the speed that we usually have with the fullbacks as well. But where Felipe comes in the game, you said Peter said he had his best game for us. I would agree 100%. The thing that impressed me most about him was he's still 21. Felipe, 21, 22?
21 or 22, yeah.
He looked like a veteran in that game, and a lot of the players around him were
playing
younger
at both
guys.
the 6 and at the 8, so the fact that he was able to make
Didn't
that
stop,
adjustment.
getting everywhere, breaking up tackles, breaking up play, starting attacks, making key passes. He kind of was all over the place, and I was doing just cutting a bit some of his highlights today. You see 108 minutes into the game, and he's still sprinting his heart out to get back and just to get more defensively organised, just that type of stuff. He kind of seems like he's thriving a bit on the chaos of, look, this is my time, I'm being thrown back in, and I just kind of have to take advantage of it and earn this shirt for myself, and he certainly seems to be doing that. Hopefully he can carry it into Colorado tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Okay, so this Colorado Rapids team, we've seen them once already this year in Colorado, and now they come here. They're a different team when they go away from home than they are in Colorado, which stands to reason considering the altitude and the atmosphere there. But they're also a different team because they've added Gyasi Zardes since the last time we saw him. So I don't know. What are we expecting this time around, Allie?
Well, another scoring threat, which is, a dangerous thing considering that, Colorado already has a few of those. Diego Rubio's had a good season in front of goal. They're a dangerous team, and Sporting's always had, especially on the road against them at home, they've had some of their better games. I mean, I'm thinking back to a few last season where they dominated Colorado and really picked them apart and completely dominated their, 3-man, 5-man back line, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's going to be an interesting game, but I just, when you look at their scoring threats now with Gyasi Zardes, it's another player to look out for, which, right now for Sporting Kansas City coming off the game against Portland, looking to kind of right the ship here in this game, it's just, when you've got numerous threats to keep an eye out for, and I agree, I really like the partnership, and I'm excited to see the partnership potentially with Ford and Fontas, but how many different lineups have we seen now with the Sporting team? That lack of consistency does, make it difficult at times. Ford talked about it today. Hey, that's our job as professional to adapt and figure it out, but I think it's going to be a tough game. But like you said, Colorado's struggled on the road this season. They've been outscored 14-4.
They're winless,
They're
right?
winless on the
I
road.
think
So
won,
I mean, that's a trend that favors Sporting Kansas City significantly. But you're gonna have to. They haven't been involved in all their games that they've been involved in, win or lose, have been multi-goal games, which is, I think, just an interesting kind of stat. It's not like it's a team that you're going to go out and necessarily, at least from what they've shown this season, like grind out a 1-goal win against. But maybe Sporting could do it. They've done that at home this year.
That's right. More than once. I think the midfield battle is key tomorrow. Just the way they play. We're just looking at just how they lined up against LAFC. They beat LAFC 2-0, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's at home. Again, they're going away from home. They're not going to play the same way. But with their 2 in the middle, our 3 in the middle, you're kind of hoping that that's where we kind of dominate the game, because they're going to have Estevez and Rosenberry going forward. So hopefully we win that midfield battle, which Felipe Hernandez will be key in, getting close to people, closing people down, not letting them build attacks. Uri Russell, I'm sure, will be running all over the place as he usually does as well. So I think if we win our individual battles in the midfield tomorrow, I think it puts us in a good position.
And Diego Rubio in that LAFC game had kind of played that underneath, like more of a true 10, which, is kind of interesting too, just in terms of how they might line up from an attacking standpoint with him in the midfield.
So you thinking maybe Uri has him, is tasked with looking after Diego Rubio if he's going to sit further back? They play Gyasi Zardes and Jonathan Lewis further up. So if Diego Rubio, maybe, as you're saying, play like a true 10, which we never really seen much of here when he played, but it's just another feather on their cap that they can use that, but something that we'll have to be looking out for tomorrow.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of formation they come out with, and because they can use Rubio in different ways, because he's not a true number 9, he's not a true number 10. I guess some people would use that false 9 phrase, but he's a bit of a wild card there. I remember when Matt Lawrence used to call the games with us here, and Rubio would start up top for Sporting, he would be critical a lot because Rubio would would go all over the pitch to find the ball, which is great at times, but then, in Matt's mind anyway, okay, now who's in front of the goal to actually score?
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're all the way over there on the side of the field, or you're all the way back in the midfield, and now who's going to make the runs up the field? And we see that sometimes with Sporting Kansas City, where the center forward will check to the ball, and that allows the other runners to play through. And so when you see Rubio, like the way they listed that formation last weekend, playing as a number 10, it's weird though because he's still kind of a striker. You know, it's just it's interesting, and they've got options with the way they want to play there. But either way, what you know you're going to get with Rubio is he's going to be all over the field. He's going to be kicking guys. He's going to be falling down and trying to buy yellow cards. He's going to be instigating things. He's going to be a general pain. And Sporting are going to have to deal with that throughout the course of the game. The thing about that midfield that you talked about, I think, is you got a guy like Mark-Anthony Kaye, who also just covers a ton of ground.
He's superb.
Yeah.
He covers a ton of ground, and he is looking to mix it up at all times too. He's, there's going to be theatrics. There's going to be, he's going to get into a verbal altercation with somebody through the course of the game. Things like that are going to happen, and so we'll see how that Sporting Kansas City midfield deals with those kind of two instigators, so to speak.
Yeah. No, I think that's.
And usually they have Jack Price as well, but sure, I think he's done for the season, is he? He got a lengthy injury, I believe. Anyway.
Yeah,
so it looks like he's out for a while. I mean,
he usually brings bite to that midfield as
same
well.
Same kind of thing as the likes of
and
likes
set
of Mark
pieces
Anthony
as
Kaye.
well,
He can.
Even still, Colorado's led the league, by a landslide in restarts and things like that. So that's another area that Sporting are going to have to be, or really tighten things up is just on the set pieces. And we've seen a couple of times that they've gotten hurt on those this year, and this is a team that's going to try to create a lot of those as well.
That will be their game plan coming in. Any fouls in and around the area, they can kind of put pressure on our backline, our goalkeeper. Yeah, you can bet that Rubio will be falling over the place around the 18 anyway.
Yeah, and there's only a couple things I think we feel like we know for sure in the game, and that those theatrics, that's one of the things we know. There's going to be a lot that we're going to have to wait and see till game day, and I think that is, hey, you want intrigue? You want to be able to go watch a game where, let's see, for who's going to start for Sporting Kansas City. Where are they going to play? I think that's going to be a big-time mystery for everybody until we get to match time. And I look at that, especially the attacking situation for the Colorado Rapids, and see the same thing, because I think Robin Fraser has some pieces that he can move around a little bit depending on how he likes the matchup. So that because Robin Fraser and Peter Vermees are also both going to be looking and trying to guess what the other side's formation and rotation is going to be for the game. And they might be making decisions based on assumptions, not really knowing what the other side's going to do. And that's one of the fun parts of the game. So a lot of intrigue tomorrow night. Sporting Kansas City. This is the way I'm going to sell it to you, folks. On Tuesday of last week, Sporting Kansas City showed the ability to bounce back within the course of a game. Now, on Wednesday night against Colorado, they have the opportunity to show their ability to bounce back after one game into the next and show that resiliency. Nobody likes the result that happened in Portland this past weekend. There is a long list of adversity facing Sporting Kansas City, but they have a chance to go out there and show a little bit more of what they're made of in this game against a tough, good Colorado Rapids team. 7:30 kickoff, 7 o'clock pregame on 38 The Spot and on all of your streaming options, sportingkc.com/live and the Sporting KC app. And, of course, you can listen to the game live on Sports Radio 810 WHB as well, with the Final Whistle post-game show immediately following the match as well. So for Kayden, Pierre, and for our producer, cameraman, and jack of all trades, Jordan Burrell, standing behind the camera, doing the real work, for Conor McCourt and Ali Trost, this is Nate Bucati saying thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next time on the Sporting Kansas City Show, presented by Michelob Ultra.